Welcome back to On the Record. I'm here at the Microsoft Worldwide Partner Conference, and I'm here with Howard Cohen. How do you
Morning,
do?
Robert.
Nice last name. Um,
Like the middle initial too.
the middle initial is the same for both of us. That's right. I'll just have to change my name to Howard, and
There
then
you go.
we can go as
Who,
twins.
who are those guys?
Dressed
Who
in
are
red.
that guy?
So the industry's changing, especially in the channel. Well, maybe not especially, but that's what I want to talk about.
Sure.
Um, you've been around the channel probably. How long have you been?
I entered the channel just after the IBM PC did in 1981, so it's
Uh,
31 years now.
okay, so I was a year before you.
There you go.
Wow, so you're just a punk then. So I don't even know why
I'm a
I'm
newcomer.
talking to you. That's exactly it. How do you think it's changing? Like, what are the main things that you see changing from a channel partner's point of view?
I guess the foremost thing that I see is that the channel is getting to be less and less of a channel. I mean, if you think about the origin of the word, IBM was selling these PCs, but nobody but IBM can sell IBM. This is back in the early 80s, right? So they dubbed us resellers. We're not sellers of IBM, we're resellers of IBM. That made it okay. And they created a reseller channel. They would sell to distribution, distribution would sell to us, we would sell to customers. Created a channel. Um, it was all predicated on the fact that we're reselling. And these days, as I look at the Microsoft partners who are here, fewer and fewer of them are selling anything. They're not even selling Microsoft licenses. They're having somebody else do that, and they are becoming service providers. Pure, not service first, but pure service providers. So they're getting to look less and less like a channel and more like professional practices. And so I constantly ask them, what's the difference between you, a doctor, a lawyer, or an accountant? You vend quality services for a reasonable fee.
Um, it's interesting because I ask people all the time now that, like, quite honestly, I have problems turning on my cell phone in the morning. That's how technical I
Mm.
am. And if I get it one day, that doesn't mean the next day I'm going to know how to do it. But and I get through it.
Mm.
So the question I ask to just about, I would say probably about 25% of the time to the people I'm interviewing, is um, if I wanted to become a reseller now, by the or kind of channel partners,
Mm-hmm.
right? I have real good business skills. I've been in business for 32 years. I was a young professor in Canada's history.
Mm.
Um, uh, so, I know business. I don't know technology. I said, so would I be able to survive without having any other employees, just me? And the answer is always yes. I would probably not only survive, but matter of fact, a few people have told me I'd probably make a whole lot more money than what I'm doing now, which is probably true. Um,
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I'm doing a session this afternoon here at the conference about client relationship management for the technology professional. The reason I'm doing that session is because so many more of the channel partners I see emerging are all technology people. And they do fine when they first, they've decided that that sales guy that they work for,
mhm.
we can do better. So they go off to do it better, and for a few months they do because they brought some clients with them who love them, and that's their revenue for a while. Then they saturate them. Now all of a sudden they have a problem. And that problem is they lack business acumen and they lack marketing skills. It's not something they ever had to do before. So it changes. It really changes the whole complexion for them. That's kind of what I build my business around, and if I were entering the way you described, that's probably how I would build my business. I would find these guys who think they can do it better, and I would hire on to help them do that because they don't know how to.
Interesting. I don't know if you know we have a ChannelLine advisory council with about 1,000 members.
I didn't know that.
No, well, you'll have to join.
I'll be glad to.
Okay, but we'll talk about that after. Um, but so we went out there, and the biggest things that we wanted to do was to talk about, what are the opportunities in the channel, what are the problems in the channel, where are the, what are they really good at, where aren't they? And from the problems part, the first one that always came up was by the channel partners, because it's not happening. And the channel partners would say, we don't trust those vendors. And I would say, so what do you think they're going to do? Do you think they want to steal your little accounts and go out there and service them themselves? And and their answer is, well, they've done that before, which they have
Hmm.
sort of, but not really.
Again, as the first thing I said was that I think it's moving away. The channel, quote unquote, is moving away from product sales. A lot of these partners aren't selling products anymore. I remember very vividly when Cisco was the worst evil in the world because they constantly took our opportunities and our accounts and brought them to their friends or did them themselves. And then all of a sudden John Chambers turns around and says, okay, if you ever sell directly without a partner, you're going to have to explain to me why personally. And that changed their whole culture. Then it was EMC, that was the evil machine company. They were stealing all of our accounts. One by one, they've come back to the channel because they know that this group of people multiplies their ability to reach out into the marketplace. These days, I don't think any. I have a lot of ISV clients who have no problem telling channel players that they have their own sales force because the channel player isn't really expected to become their sales force anymore. The channel is intended to become a delivery mechanism. They're out there, they can do installation, they can do deployment, they can do development, they can do all these things that no ISV is going to build the infrastructure themselves for. So it's a different relationship than it was back then. It's not predicated upon account ownership. There are still some channel players who are there, but they're really anachronistic now. They're out of out of time.
Yeah, and they're not going to make it, in my opinion. Most of them. Some of them will, those, but they're not going to make it into the big dollars. That's for sure.
Well,
Unless they have a big enough database, they can sell enough product at 5% margins.
even the biggest of them, you can be selling millions and millions and millions of dollars of product, but margins today are even more tissue thin than they ever were before. So you're not making money doing that. And if you don't have a service play, if you don't have attached services or even just consultative services, that's why there's such a big move to things like MSP, to be a managed services provider. Such a big move to the cloud because now everything becomes a service. And it's a very different relationship. It's a very different interplay between vendors, channel players, and clients. You know, I just I don't see the day of product sales disappearing necessarily. I see it focusing down into a select few very large catalog houses, the CDWs, the PC Connections of the world, because most of these partners don't want to extend credit so that they can extend credit to their customer. They don't want to invest capital to extend credit to a customer. They don't want to do that. So product is painful to them. The relationship now becomes one where these people want to meet the people who are developing the product so they can provide a higher level of support, a more in-depth level of support. And that's what I see more of the dialogue being about here. The Microsoft field sales force is really turning its attention to be customer facing, to find customer opportunities, to generate demand and bring it back to those partners who've raised their hand and shown that they can actually deliver.
Well, it's interesting. So going back to the council for a minute, what the next problem that they were talking about, and both sides really agreed on it, was that they don't know how to run a business. They don't, like channel partners, don't know how to run a business. They don't know how to do sales. They don't know how to do marketing. And not only that, and here's where the biggest problem was, they don't want to do those things. They say, well, that just gets in our way, of what we have to do every day.
Yep. The
And
problem
so,
is that those firms can't survive. Think about it. In 1995, I was working with somebody who couldn't understand why it was that his chief technology guy couldn't understand how to close a deal. And all of the consulting practice directors couldn't understand the dynamics of cost control and whatnot. And finally, I looked at him one day and I said, do you realize how unrealistic it is to expect that you can find somebody who has technology skills, business acumen, selling capability, and leadership? I mean, if you find somebody like that, you know what they're going to be? They're going to be the president of their own company. because they have all those skills taken together. And what I see happening now,
Steve Jobs had 3 out of 4. I don't know about leadership.
well, he had his own brand of leadership. You can disagree that it was nasty, but it worked.
It worked very well.
His people would lay down on the railroad tracks for him. So, I see today more of those people starting to emerge and create and be the president of their own company. And the people that I talk to in sessions here, clearly they've got the business acumen. They have the ability to present themselves. I said to somebody last night that usually in the firms I look at these days, there's only one salesperson, and his title is president in these firms. It's true.
So, yeah, so I mean, from my point of view, when we talk about change, I think that what we're going to be seeing is more of I'm just using this as a high-end word because I don't like it, even though I have one, but more of an MBA type of person who's going to be running most of the channel, the real successful channel companies, and they'll hire the people who are now running the companies to be, their chief tech CTO
I think it's going to
or
go the
whatever.
other way. I actually think it's going to go the other way. I think you're going to find the chief technology officer being the president of the firm and hiring himself a business administrator or somebody to run the company for him, a COO level person.
If they can find one, and I'll go back, I think a CTO usually needs somebody else who's going to run their business for
Right,
them.
that's exactly what I'm
But
saying.
so they're not going to be the one who owns the business. The one who will own the business will be, in my opinion, the person because that's what they do. They're more entrepreneurial. They're more, but it can go either way.
Interesting.
But you need both. And
Yeah, you absolutely do.